Hi folks, it's Gary here with your Blue Nose Bulletin for Thursday, the 29th of August 2024. It is transfer window closure eve, and joining me on this momentum occasion to talk about all the latest in terms of incomings and outgoings once again is my good colleague Mitch, who you can see right there.
Good to see everybody.
One welcome to Mitch. We spoke last night on the bulletin with regards to news regarding a couple of potential incomings, which appear to have gone south a little bit today. So we'll speak about that. We've also got a bit of an update with regarding the latest with Todd Cantwell's move to Blackburn Rovers, and hopefully giving you some good news in terms of players coming in the door. But I think it's fair to say, Mitch, that as always at this time of the year, it's going to go down to the wire.
They don't call it silly season for nothing, do they? I think we always had an idea that the transfer window was probably going to go this way because of the Euros and the knock-on impact with it. I don't quite think we all thought it was going to get quite so white knuckle in terms of we're looking down the 12th hour and we've got, call it what have we got at this point of recording here, about 36 hours to go.
Lots of business I think to be done before tomorrow evening when that transfer business window will close, and certainly all the indications coming from the club is that Rangers are expecting to do business over the next 24 hours in terms of incomings. What I'm hearing is that there will be at least 3 coming in the door before tomorrow night, and we'll try our very best to kind of update you in terms of what the latest are in terms of those. One player that definitely will not be one of those players coming in the door is the former Manchester United midfielder Hannibal Mejbri, who some of you may have seen a very clever Oasis-themed Wonderwall announcement video yesterday. So a bit of props to the Burnley social media. But he's joined Burnley for a deal in the region of around about 9 million, which as soon as we saw those sorts of figures, Mitch, that very much kind of takes Rangers out of the bidding for a player that only had a year left on his deal down there. I think the original plan was Rangers had looked to maybe try and take him on loan for the year with a view to take them permanently afterwards. But at that sort of money, it just wasn't a deal that we could accommodate.
I think when you're looking at players like Hannibal, for example, and I think the issue is when you look at them objectively and the value that they hold, when you start to compete against clubs that are receiving parachute payments from the Premier League into the Championship, we're still essentially competing against a Premier League level club in terms of what they can offer, both in terms of transfer fees and wage structure and transfer structures. And I think £9 million is an awful lot of money for a boy that's still got a lot to prove, I think, in the world of football. No doubt there's bags and bags full of potential with him, but I think maybe right now taking a season out of the limelight, which would be the Premiership, and also taking a season out of the limelight that could be, as we all know, the melting pot of the SPL, I think it's a good idea for him to take the step down to the Championship, get a full proper season under his belt, and hopefully if Burnley, get themselves promoted, I'm sure he's a player that we'll be looking at going 10 years down the line, we'll go, wish we got him when we could. But,
There's plenty along those lines, kind of near misses that we've seen over the years, and he can, potentially join that list. But that's one that definitely will not be getting done. Another one who we spoke quite a lot about last night was the Egyptian Ibrahim Adel, and unfortunately, we will not be saying hello to Adel as he looks very likely to be heading out to Getafe. Rumour has it that Rangers haven't, but that's the end of the Adel puns. Looking very likely that he'll be heading off to the La Liga club with him allegedly meeting representatives from Rangers yesterday alongside the reps from Getafe and Leicester City and Ipswich Town. But Getafe very much in the box seat for that deal. And I think, Mitch, from what I'm hearing, and I think you're the same, is for that to kind of be re-energised, it's going to require that to kind of fall apart at Getafe's side.
From what I've heard, essentially it's on standby mode. The structure and everything else that's in place with the deal with, over to Spain, if he goes over there and sets fire to the Spain while he's out there, then there's a lot of money for them to make down the line. But I think, when you look at, they're paying roughly all in 750k for the season's loan just now, with the permanent transfer for about 3 million. I think it's roughly about £4 million next summer, with apparently some ridiculous sell-on clause of between 10 and 30%, depending on which reports you believe. That's an awful lot of money for a player who's not done it at a European level yet. And I think if we had probably had better and maybe a bit better transfer window this season, it's a risk we could have afforded to take. But I think when you look at a potential sell-on fee of, even if we meet in the middle there and say 20%, it's a lot of money there to potentially risk it all and put it all on the table, or potentially lose it all down the line when you start factoring in both fees there between the loan fee and then the permanent transfer. £3 million, and if he goes for a deal of under 10 million, it can very quickly become a bad deal for ourselves. And I think one of these players that genuinely I'm excited to see him play in Europe, but I'm inadvertently probably a little bit genuinely excited to not see him playing for us at the moment, just with the risk that he represents. But I think, one to watch.
Yeah, the latest name that we have been linked with is the Albanian midfielder, kind of number 10, Nedim Bajrami, who many of you may well remember from the Euros, scoring in something crazy like 20 seconds against Italy. Now, he currently plays with the Serie B club Sassuolo, and all reports coming out of Italy suggesting that Rangers have been approached the Italian club with a loan deal for this season, with a view to purchasing him next summer. Now, Sassuolo very much hoping that they're going to be promoted back into Serie A for next year, and that appears to be a bit the sticking point, because they don't appear to want Bajrami to go out on a permanent deal, but seem relatively happy enough to sign off on a year's loan, not just be a straight loan, very similar to what we've got in place for Václav Černý at the moment from Wolfsburg. So I think that's one that I think we'll go the distance. Very much appears that he is a player of interest, very much in a position that we need to strengthen in, Mitch, especially given the news with Todd Cantwell's move to Blackburn. Almost looks complete in terms of that being announced. I'm expecting that to happen, and the coming hours, that announcement coming out of Blackburn that deal's been done. So we absolutely need a number 10 to come in, and Bajrami, certainly a player with plenty of pedigree, and even if it is just a straight loan for the year, he is someone that will come in with great quality, and you'd expect him to be able to slot straight into the starting 11.
He's also a player for me as well that's quite interesting, because he can play in both wings as well as the number 10 role. So when you look at the impending departure of Scott Wright plus Todd Cantwell, you say, the games that he's not going to play in the number 10, does he then slot in one of the wings? And given there's still question marks around Cortese's durability over the course of a season, and given the fact that Mr. Dependable, given anyone's thoughts on him at any given day, Scott Wright isn't going to be there, I think it's one of these ones of it would be a deal that would make sense for everybody. He gets a season at top end European football in terms of the Europa League, and they also get to remove a player off their wages while they're in the process of getting themselves promoted again. And I think that another player that we've seen a few links to as well today, which may or may not excite a few people, is Bambo Maete, the Marseille centre back. Rumour of a season-long loan deal being done. I know the boy only signed with them at the start of this transfer window, but I think Marseille very much keen to get him out, get him some good European game time, and also get him a bit more first team game time. Big 6 foot, 23-year-old Ivorian, very, very strong pedigree, and that's I know currently from what we've heard is Lens and Brest, that are also good friends, Brest, are also in the running potentially for him as well. There could or could not be some credence to those rumours as well, but I think what we're probably going to see as well is a lot of links to a lot of names and a lot of smoke and a lot of mirrors probably over the next few hours. And I think, as always, as a team, we'll make sure that we kind of decipher the facts from the fiction as we go through it, and it's going to be interesting.
Absolutely. I think the link with the centre back from Marseille appears to be off the back of Stanley and Sokol, who we spoke about yesterday, who looks as if Lille may well be his destination again. A kind of full transfer rather than a loan deal looks to be in the offing for him. So yeah, I think Rangers looking at that list of potential options that we've undoubtedly got from Neil Scoppin and the manager to try and see what we do. We absolutely need to bring in another centre back, having obviously lost Ben Davies, who's gone down to Birmingham for the season. So yeah, firmly expect before tomorrow night that we will see some form of defender coming in the door alongside a midfielder and possibly a winger as well. And one name that kind of refuses to go away, which I know is slightly less of a priority before tomorrow, is the former Man United fullback Brandon Williams, who we've seen linked pretty much all summer. But he's currently a free agent, so there's no rush to kind of get him in the door before the window tomorrow because he is unattached at the moment. And I just wonder, given what we've seen with regards to Ridvan Yilmaz's durability, that word again we spoke about, and the fact that we've seen Yefty being quite useful in terms of being a winger option, then maybe another fullback could be useful. And Brandon Williams, as much as he's maybe not got, it's not a sexy name by any stretch of the imagination, but could come in and fill a role that might well be useful and wouldn't command a huge wage, I don't feel.
I feel like a player like Brandon Williams makes a lot of sense. As you say, he's sensible, not sexy. And I think that's sometimes there's going to be transfers like that. Not every name can be a delicious name that has us rubbing our hands. And I think when you look at it pragmatically, he was with Norwich when they were in the Premier League. He's played 50 games in the Premier League for Man United. He played a full season with Norwich in the Premiership. Last season he was with Ipswich in the season that they got promoted. I know his season was slightly curtailed with injury, and he's a player that I'm genuinely very surprised is actually on the market still, given the fact where we are in the window and what teams need. And I think that tells you maybe a little bit, tells us probably a little bit about the measuring stick of the man himself. That he's now 20, coming up 24, maybe 25. And I think he's now at that point. He realises he needs to be at a club where he nails a shirt on his back, and he's not that the Man United wonder kid that gets passed from pillar to post and team to team. He needs to find his own home, and I feel like even at his current age, if he comes up here and does really well for 18, 24 months, there's another sensible move, and there could be another good money move down the line for him as well, back down to England, if that's where he so desires to go. I think probably just needs a bit of stability, and probably, yourself, sometimes in this day and age, a lot of clubs get very scared by he missed a little bit of time with an injury. He came back from the injury at the back end of the season and pulled a run of games together. And I think, again, it would be a solid, not sexy signing.
Yeah, and we'll watch that one with interest. But again, that one doesn't need done tomorrow if that's an area we're going to go down. And it may well be that the free agent market from Saturday onwards becomes quite important because there may well be a lot of players that are still unattached at that point that become available. And you may have seen yesterday on social media, the PFA down in England had released a kind of squad list of players that played in a friendly for them yesterday, and plenty of players with lots of Premiership experience, the likes of Carl Jenkinson, ex of Arsenal, Ravel Morrison, remember him, and we're all included on that. So that there's some talent out there that isn't currently with a club. So that could be something to watch in the coming days. Last thing before we round off this video, and it's just regarding Yanis Hadji. Nothing of note regarding Hadji's situation coming from the club today, although that social media post that was put out by the Hadji camp a couple of nights ago, I think it's fair to say, Mitch, hasn't gone down terribly well. Whether it's a bit of posturing, which we spoke about yesterday from the Hadji camp, to try and manufacture a move very similar to what happened at this time last year. But it's looking likely that the kind of Hadji situation, there doesn't appear to be a solution in place at the moment because there just isn't interest in him.
I think the issue isn't that there's no interest in Hadji. I think the issue is the baggage that comes with Hadji, in terms of his dad in the background and his agents constantly, overselling him to every marketplace. And you would think with the way that his agent and his dad speak about him, you would think he was the second coming of Jesus, of the footballing world. And I think what needs to be had is, if we get to a point that on Saturday morning Yanis Hadji's still a contracted Rangers player, there has to be a point where everybody's an adult and sits round the table and says, okay, we're not having you sit there in the B team because you're fit, you're healthy, and we also still need you as a body. And we're certainly not paying you 22, 24 grand a week to go and sit and play in the B team every week. There has to be a point where everybody meets in the middle and says, okay, you want the new contract, fine. But there's some caveats to that new contract, because we're still talking about a player who fundamentally has played less than 10 league games and 10 games for Rangers in the last 2.5 seasons. And if he was that good, the rumoured fees of around £2 million that we were asking for him, not an awful lot of money in today's world for a big, top 5 Euro League team. Not even necessarily a lot of money for a team in, the likes of Turkey when you look at the links to Fenerbahce in the past and Besiktas. £2 million in today's marketplace is not an awful lot of money for a player. And we've got every right to hold firm on a valuation for a player that we know has sell-on value. So, and his team have had all summer there, including post-Euros, to pull together a move for him. Could we see ourselves in a position of, and we all know there's a few players' contracts that get ripped up in the final day of the season, could that contract potentially be sacrificed tomorrow in terms of paid up, let out? I don't think so. I've not heard any indications, certainly, that that's on the cards, but as we all know, transfer deadline day does weird things to good people. So, but there has to be a point where that solution very much needs to be resolved, and it needs to be resolved even to a short-term degree to look at January.
Yeah, no, you can't stay with the bomb squad on that contract for 3 months, both from the club's perspective, but also from the player's perspective as well. That it doesn't suit anyone. Tomorrow is transfer deadline day. Expecting lots of business in and out of the club, and right here on the Fourth Official YouTube channel, we will keep you abreast of every situation. And then on Saturday morning on our Patreon channel, we'll do a little bit of a debrief, round up all the activity, and do a little bit of a preview ahead of Sunday's big Old Firm game. So loads coming up over the coming days. Big thank you to everyone that's been engaging and watching over the last few days. And we'll watch with interest over what happens in the next 24 hours.
And don't forget to like and subscribe, everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you all for watching. We'll speak to you next time. Goodbye.
Ta-ra.